Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So for today we want to start with some announcement and then we will proceed with uh, the normal lectures that we have. A few announcements. Number one, I have sent you a list of your team members and group mates. Please make sure you are in touch with them. You are starting to work on, let's say, project and also assignments. You have pretty short deadlines. So March 4th is for your assignment and end of March is for your project. So make sure that you are in touch. Everybody should contribute to the projects and assignment. I'm going to ask each group who is not working, and definitely I will reduce the mark from those who are not participating in group activities. Okay. And for your project, if you had a chance to read it, you need to let me know which project topic you want to select. So far, 2 project topics are selected, transportation and renewable energy. So you should select the other ones. Send me an email and always CC your friends, carbon copy your friends in your email. So I don't like to receive any email from a group that is related to all of the group members, but they are not CC'd. So make sure that everybody that are impacted by your decision are CC'd in your email. And let me know which topic is your interest. Then you can start searching and applying your um, instruction. Please read the documents that I have uploaded. These 2 documents include the project description and assignment description. Both of them are very clear and you need to read them carefully. You will find the answer of all of your questions. And the last announcement is that I exceptionally let those who are not happy with their marks or could not attend the last quiz, I mean quiz number 1, to attend it again. So the quiz is open right now up to Monday noon, so 12 p.m. So if you're not happy with your mark, or let's say you have been absent, you had no access to internet, exceptionally, you can do it again. But if if it is your final exam, if it is your second quiz or midterm, you cannot attend because of weak internet, because of your laptop, whatever, no excuse is acceptable. Okay, so this is exceptionally because I want to, prepare you for them. So go ahead, you can do that again if you are not happy with your mark or if you could not attend at all. Okay, before I want to start the lecture, any questions or comments? Clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
Professor.
great.
Yes, sir.
So let's start today's lecture by reviewing what was left. So everybody can see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, great. So thank you. So as you remember, the last topic that we were talking about was related to uh, drivers and metrics of supply chain. We reviewed 3 of them: logistical drivers, including facilities, inventory, and transportation. And this was the last slide that we stopped. Now we are on the last 3 drivers, which includes information, sourcing, and pricing. Um, let's start with information. What is the role of information in supply chain? So they improve the utilization of supply chain assets and the coordination of supply chain flows to increase responsiveness and reduce the cost. So that's very interesting. They are used to improve utilization or productivity of supply chain. So information can help you to gain more knowledge of where you're lacking, what are your challenges, where is your deficiency, and how can you improve it. And also you see the word coordination. We will have a chapter for that. We will have a lecture for that. That what does coordination mean? But to make it simple, coordination means sharing information between different stages of a supply chain so that all of you are on the same page. All of you know that what is the problem, what is the challenge, what should they do. So a supplier is sharing information with manufacturer, manufacturing is sharing information with retailer, retailer is sharing with everybody else who are in the network. So that will help to do a better job. And it's interesting that it will help you to increase both responsiveness and reduce the cost, which means efficiency. So information, as you can see, is a key driver. Why it is a key driver? Because it can be used to provide higher responsiveness while simultaneously improve efficiency. Okay, so in other drivers, if you remember, when you are spending on efficiencies, or when you moving your focus mostly on efficiency, you were losing your
Yes.
responsiveness. Is it right? And vice versa. But that's interesting that for information, if you spend time and money on information, then you will gain both of them at the same time. And this is very interesting. Okay. So that's the only driver that helps you to achieve both strategies at the same time. And then what is the role in supply chain? Right information can help the supply chain better meet customer needs at lower cost when you know exactly what customer wants. You know the example of Dell. They know exactly what customer wants because they receive the order in advance, then they can plan for it. Okay, so they will not be surprised by the customer order when it changes. So they already know information. It also improves visibility of transactions. Okay, what do we mean by visibility? Any idea?
Maybe transparency, sir.
Yes, transparency, kind of, yeah. So when you are a manufacturer, okay, so let's say you're manufacturing something and you have some stores across the country and customers are purchasing from your stores, okay? So you don't see what's happening um, behind the scene, which which items are sold more today, which items are still in your stock. So if you create such kind of visibility, it helps you. And also from the customer side, okay? If you are a customer and you want to see where is your order, you have already ordered something, you have purchased something from Amazon, from any online store, and then you don't know where is that. So if you provide such visibility, it really helps that customer will have a better feeling, you as a manufacturer will have a better feeling, and that's the benefit of information. And the last point on this slide is share the minimum amount of information required to achieve coordination. Okay, so I need to bring the example of um, two different level of information. One of them is aggregate sale and the other one is point of sale. Point of sale means the sale that happening uh, at uh, at each customer. In other words, when you go to Walmart, when you go to Sobeys, when you go to any store, you purchase something that is called point of sale. So that's where a transaction happens. Okay. So what is aggregate sale? So aggregate sale is the total sale or the accumulated amount of sale. Okay. So when you're reporting to managers, which one is better, aggregated sale or point of sale?
We don't do there for
Aggregate.
over.
Exactly. So you should be careful. When you're reporting to your manager, they don't need to know the point of sale or what customer has purchased, what individual customer have purchased. Something that really matters is aggregate sales. So you should be careful of minimum amount of information to be shared with those who are required to share. What are the components of information decision? Any questions so far? Okay, no question. Components of information decision. The first one is demand planning. So one of the very interesting application of information is in demand planning. Okay, so what we do in demand planning, we anticipate how much customer will purchase in future. So the only thing that is exchanged is information. So the purpose of generating the process of generating the best estimates of future demand based on historical sales and planned marketing activities and etc. So what happens? You want to guess how much customer will purchase from individual products that you are providing in future. So that's a very essential thing when you have a push system. You cannot start manufacturing, you cannot start ordering raw material before you know how much you want to manufacture. Okay, and everything starts from demand planning. So you see how important is this particular driver information. So you need to have invest enough on information so that you can have a successful uh, supply chain. Different information requirements and uses. Yes, you know, we have different levels. In each level we may need different types of information. And then another application or a component of information decision is coordination. Coordination, simply you can say information sharing. I already explained you that we have a chapter for that, but if I just want to explain it very briefly, coordination means that we want to share some information between stages of a supply chain. Why? Because we want to let them know what is happening. We don't want them to be shocked, okay, by changes in orders or changes in situations. So that's why coordination really helps that you provide reliable services to your customers and keep your manufacturing going on. So information is a key factor when it comes to coordination. And the other component in sales and opportunity planning, operation planning, SNOP. So this is pretty standard term you see in many, financial accounts or reports. So the process of creating an overall supply chain, which means production and inventories, to meet the anticipated level of demand. So demand planning happens after you do it, you share it with all the stages of the supply chain, and then you apply it for sale and operation management. Okay. So in other words, you start manufacturing, you start purchasing raw material, you start distributing and, signing some contracts with distributors in order to do that based on what you have predicted here. Okay. So this process is called sales and operation plan. Okay, definitely there are some technologies and they are added day by day. So these are not all new. EDI or electronic data interchange. This is something I remember when I was a student. So this is long behind 1960. So when you connect two computers together to transfer data or information between them, this is called EDI or electronic data interchange. The next one is internet, pretty famous. Everybody knows what does it mean. The other one is enterprise resource planning or ERP systems. Yeah, we know what they are. They are comprehensive systems. They have some modules for each activity that each company should do. For example, a module for marketing, a module for customer service, a module for accounting, a module for production planning, a module for purchasing and procurement. So those systems connect all of these modules together so that whatever happens in one module will be shared with other modules at the same time. So what's the benefit of that? You will have a very strong information system that you can make a decision simultaneously. You don't need to wait for information. They are already in the system. Okay, so you can make the data-driven decisions. Supply chain management software, there are many softwares available, but when you are using ERP, you don't need such softwares. Radio frequency information, or RFID. This is another technology available in order to track your packages or track your products in the system. Definitely there are more than this, but this is just a simple list. Information related metrics. Okay, so after we discussed the driver, now it's time to know some metrics. One of the metrics is used, its forecast horizon. So for example, is it for 1 year? Is it for 3 months? Is it for, I don't know, 5 years? So different horizons are available for forecasting. That's one of them. Frequency update, how often you update your information. Is it on time or online, or this is something that updated once a week? Forecast errors, because we are talking about forecasts, so there is a chance of error. So how accurate you predict your future demands. We will have a chapter for that as well in future. Variance from plan, so how different you are from what you have promised. And ratio of demand availability to order variability. Okay, so these are all different metrics. In the video that I have provided for this chapter, you will see detailed discussion about them. Overall trade-off, complexity versus value. Okay, so you should be very careful that don't make your managers complicated. Always, more information is not better. Be careful about that. You should try to share appropriate information. Okay, so in this case, you really need to think about who is the user of this information and just share the appropriate amount of information with them. Okay, so that's all about information. Any questions from information driver? No question. Let's move to sourcing. So this is the fifth driver, which is sourcing. What's the role in the supply chain? Who remembers what's the meaning of sourcing? I have already explained. Procurements. Okay.
Selecting suppliers.
Selecting suppliers, yes. So
looking
we
out
can,
for raw materials.
yeah, thank you. So all of them almost have the same meaning. So probably if you take the procurement course, you will have a more accurate definition for sourcing. But sourcing at its general meaning means looking for suppliers, looking for raw material, procurement, purchasing. So deciding who is the best supplier for us. So these are all defined as sourcing. What is the role in supply chain? Set of business processes required to purchase goods and services. Okay, so you should take some steps so that you can be able to purchase goods and services. That is called, sourcing. What services we normally buy in supply chain? Any idea?
Products, goods.
Raw material.
Okay, I should repeat my question. Which services we normally buy in supply chain?
Transportation.
Excellent.
Transportation.
Yes,
Storage.
transportation. Yes, sometimes the storage is also considered a service. What about IT, information technology? So these are all services, or let's say security, okay? So these are all services that you may purchase for your supply chain. Will task be performed by a source internal to the company or a third party? So this is something that we call it make or buy decision, okay? So are you going to make it inside your company, or you want to outsource it? Outsource means that if there is another company, if there is a third party, okay, that they can make a product much cheaper, much faster, and higher quality. So why should you do it by yourself? Okay, there is another company can make it. You can have a contract with them. They can make it, they can send to you, and then you can assemble to your product or just directly sell it to customers. Okay, so that is called outsourcing. You will have a lot of discussion on outsourcing on procurement course. In this course also we'll have some discussions later. Okay, so that's the definition. You want to make something, okay? So make means to do it inside your company or outsource it to a third company. Globalization, which means access to the resources across the world, creates many more sourcing options with both considerable opportunity and potential risks. For example, you can buy it from Asian countries, China, India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Philippines. There are so many, valuable manufacturing opportunities there, so you can buy from them. Why you want to make it at your company in North America? Why should you charge a lot for human resources here? They are much cheaper there and they can transfer. Definitely, there are some challenges as well. So, for example, uh, COVID or pandemic is one of the huge potential risks that impacted supply chains. So, when you do outsourcing in Asian country or any other country across the world, there is some risk besides that as well. So you should be aware of those risks as well. Okay, continuous sourcing. Sourcing decisions are crucial because they affect the level of efficiency and responsiveness. So they impact both of these two activities, both efficiency and responsiveness. So outsourcing to responsive third party, if it is too expensive to develop at their own. Yes, we already discussed it. So that's the value of outsourcing. If there is another company that make it cheaper, okay, so by outsourcing, you're deciding to be more efficient, okay? If you believe that when you make it inside your company, you can make it faster and higher quality, this is again a kind of sourcing decision that will show your responsiveness, okay? So by taking a certain type of sourcing decision, you could be either very efficient, okay, or very responsive, depending on your choice. Is it clear for everyone? So that's the
Yes, sir.
application. Thank you. So that's the application of, trade-off in the sourcing. What are the components? Again, you want to make it in-house. In-house here means inside your company. So do you want to make it in-house or do you want to outsource it? Okay. And so this is the first component. What is the other component of decision? Supplier selection. That is also a key decision in sourcing. The number of suppliers, evaluation and selection criteria, and direct negotiation or auction. Okay, so for each of these topics, we have a chapter in procurement course. So definitely I cannot open up as much as we can learn from that course, but just make it very brief that, there are so many trends in the world. Traditionally, we were thinking that if we have multiple suppliers, it's much better. The trend right now is that we have to reduce the number of suppliers. So instead of buying from 10 companies, I prefer to buy from one company. Instead, I can invest in that company. I can make my relationship with that company stronger so that they can receive more benefit from me. I can receive more benefit from them. Okay, so that's one of the key decisions. And definitely you need some evaluation and selection criteria when you want to select the best suppliers for you. This is a very detailed discussion and this is not in the scope of this course. Just want to give you some hints. And finally, the way that you select a supplier, do you go through negotiations? Okay, so when you go through negotiations, there is a high chance that you be more responsive, or you go through auctions. So what we do normally through auctions?
Bidding process?
Yes, that's the bidding process. And normally, which supplier will be selected if you go through auction?
Lowest quote.
Exactly, the lowest. So when you select suppliers based on the lowest cost or the lowest quote, so are you responsive or you are efficient?
Efficient.
Efficient.
Excellent.
Responsive.
So when you go through auctions, because you're deciding based on the lowest cost, you are efficient. Okay. When you go through negotiations, you decide based on qualifications. Okay. So that's why you will be responsive. So you see how your strategy will define how to select your suppliers. Procurement, that's the next component. So the process of obtaining goods and services within a supply chain is called procurement. A structure of procurement must meet the goal of decreasing the total cost of ownership and increasing supply chain surplus. So the way that you sign the contracts, the way that you acquire material and services, that will define if you are responsive or you are efficient. Okay, let's review some metrics here because this is the interesting part. How we measure the sourcing decisions. Day payable outstanding, which is defined as days between supplying a product and paid for the supply. Okay, so what do you think? Should it be in higher or lower?
Higher.
Higher. Any other ideas?
Supplying a product will be in a lower, and the paid for a supply, uh, yeah, that is also lower.
Okay, so if you are a customer, if you are a manufacturer buying from a supplier, okay, manufacturer, you're buying from a supplier, okay? So in this case, this guy, manufacturer, likes today's payable outstanding, okay, to be increased, and this guy, supplier, wants this time to be reduced, okay? So that's the difference between them. Average purchase price. Yes, this is something that you decide as the lowest price, for example. A range of purchase price, average purchase quantity. Are you buying in large quantities or small quantities? Supply quality. This is related to responsiveness. Supply lead time. This is related to responsiveness. Fraction of on-time delivery. Again, this is related to responsiveness. So how your suppliers are reliable, do they respect their promises, and supply reliability, do they normally face breakdowns and um, efficiencies and quality issues. So that's related to supply reliability. Okay, so these are a list of um, sourcing metrics. There is a trade-off here in sourcing, uh, and the overall trade-off is to increase the supply chain surplus. So we are a business, we want to make sure that we gain some profit at the end. Increase the size of total surplus to be shared across the supply chain. Impact of sourcing on sales, service, production cost, inventory cost, and the rest of the cost. Outsource if raises the supply chain surplus more than the firm can do on it. Keep function in-house if the third party cannot increase the supply chain surplus. Okay, so how can you decide to be responsive or let's say efficient in a supply chain? Based on your make or buy decision. Okay, so make it inside your house or make it inside your company if you can make it cheaper. Okay, or if you can make it faster, or if you can make it in higher quality. Okay, but you can outsource it if there is a company that can do them all at the same time and they can gain you more profit. Okay, so sourcing decision can help you to achieve responsiveness or efficiency based on the items that we already discussed. Okay, any question from sourcing? No question?
Sir, little
No,
bit
no, sir.
confused about overall trade-off.
Okay, cool. So what is your clear doubt?
I mean, I'm not pretty clear about what exactly overall trade-off here.
You know, here the overall trade-off is that we want to make sure the profitability of supply chain is increased. Okay, so how can we gain that? We can gain that by decreasing the cost, correct? So how can we decrease the cost? One way is to decide either to make it inside your company or make it outside your company. Okay, so if your decisions is based on the cost, for example, you select to do it outside because it's cheaper, okay, then you are making a decision that adds the surplus of your company, correct? Is it correct? So
Yeah,
when you outsource it to a third party or another company, then you're saving some money, okay, and it will be cheaper for you. So you're efficient, correct?
correct.
What if you decide to select a supplier based on higher quality? Okay. In other words, you can make it cheaper inside your company, but you cannot make it in higher quality. So you decide to select a supplier that can make it in higher quality. So in this case, you are trying or you are deciding to be responsive because quality matters when you are responsive. So you can see that the option of selecting appropriate supplier can help you to achieve either responsiveness or efficiency at the same time. Okay, so the components of sourcing decision will decide if you have been lucky to be efficient or responsive. Clear for you now?
Yeah, yes. Thank you so much, sir. It's pretty clear.
Okay, great. So the last driver, which is pricing, sixth driver, what's the role in supply chain? Pricing determines the amount of charge customers for the amount to charge customers for goods and services that it makes available on supply chain. So when you go to buy a bottle of milk, okay, so you are charged for some money. That is called the pricing decision. So if you want to charge a lot, if you want to charge less, that's all decisions that are decided under pricing driver. It affects the behavior of buyers, definitely. So when it is cheaper, people will buy it more. But so it affects the demand and supply chain performance. So why it changes the supply chain performance? Because people will buy more, yeah. So you will gain more money. So you will be more profitable. So easily pricing decisions impact the supply chain performance. Pricing strategies can be used to match demand and supply. So again, this is very clear. How it impacts? Just remember the example of, let's say, air tickets, okay? When it is very cheap, for example, by $100 or $100, you can go to US and come back. So why not? You will buy the ticket. But if it is, $2,000, you are not interested in that. So a less number of people are interested in such tickets, okay? So it can play with demand and supply using pricing decisions. Okay, what is the role in competitive strategy? Firms can utilize optimal pricing strategy to improve efficiency and responsiveness depending on what is their priority. Okay, pricing strategy varies to meet different customer responsiveness requirements. Okay, so I will bring you some examples in next slides. What do we mean by that? There are some components for pricing decision. The first one is pricing and economies of scale. So when you see economies of scale, does it talk about efficiency or effectiveness? Or sorry, responsiveness?
Responsiveness.
Efficiency.
What do other people think? Economies of scale.
This is the efficiency priority, sir.
Yes, this is efficiency mostly. So when you, so in this case, we can refer to a small batch versus large batch production. Okay, so another example, one loading versus multiple loading. So when you want to deliver the products to customer, do you want to do individual delivery or you want to do multiple loading? Or remember the example of, you're trying to travel. Are you going to go alone or you want to take a group of people with you? So it will be much cheaper and you can save some costs. So that's the sign of being efficient. The provider of the activity must decide how to price it appropriately to reflect these economies of scale. Okay, so when you are doing in larger volume, you will receive some discounts. Okay, for example, if you instead of buying one item, one raw material, you buy in the packages of 100, you will receive some discounts. So when you do so, when you consider economies of scale, your price will be lower and you're able to give more discounts or reduce your price as well. Okay, another interesting idea that we have already discussed is deciding to be either everyday low pricing or we decide to be high-low pricing. Okay, what is the everyday low pricing? That is the strategy taken by companies such as Walmart. Okay, so they do their best to provide the lowest possible cost for customers. So you don't see that they increase or decrease their prices every day. That's always the lowest possible. Okay. While in some companies, you see that in certain seasons or certain time, they increase their prices, and in certain seasons they give some discounts or they mark down. Okay. So this is another strategy that may be taken by companies. So they try to make it up and down. So the price goes up and down, but in everyday low prices, they try to keep it as minimum as possible. So depending on the type of product, depending on the types of customer and the uh, the competitive strategy that they are taking, the strategy could be changed. Okay. What is another types of pricing decision that could impact competitiveness, the responsiveness or efficiency? The other one is fixed price versus menu pricing. Okay, so what do we mean by fixed price? If marginal supply chain costs or the value to the customer vary significantly along some attribute, it is often effective to have a pricing menu. Okay, for example, when you want to buy a car, okay, let's say you want to buy a Toyota, okay, any types, any model of Toyota. So you have the option to buy the basic one, right? Then they give you another package that the gearbox will be automatic. They will have some options. You will have some rear camera and blah blah blah. So many other options. Then the price goes a little bit higher. Then you are able to connect to internet, another package. Give you more options, they will give you more services, they will extend your warranty for 10 years, something like that. Then they give you a higher cost or higher price. So in this case, you see that they are using menu pricing. Okay, menu pricing is good for efficiency or effectiveness.
This is responsiveness. I mean, efficient, not efficiency.
Excellent. That's right. So depending on your customer, you're giving them different options. If they are very rich, okay, buy the best one. If you don't have enough money, okay, buy the basic one. But when you have the fixed pricing, what do? You say, this is what it is, okay? This is the price. This is my strategy. I try to be efficient. I try to make it as cheap as possible, okay? So this is called fixed pricing. Okay, can lead to customer behavior that has a negative impact on profit. Yes, we should be very careful about the pricing that we put. So sometimes it totally destroys our market if you do a wrong pricing. Okay, some metrics. Profit margin is the very clear metric because we can measure how our pricing decision has impacted our profitability. Days sales outstanding, which is the average time between sale is made and the time that it is cashed. So we want it to be increased or decreased. We want it to be decreased, okay? So we want to reduce the time that we sell something and receive it. Okay, incremental fixed cost per order, incremental variable cost per unit. So we want all of them to be reduced. Average sale prices depends on our strategy. Do we want to be efficient or responsive? Average order size, it impacts the economies of scale. So it could be a decision related to efficiency. Range of sale price and range of periodic sales. So both of them are related to be responsive. Okay, because you are giving some options to customers. Okay, and overall trade-off, increase firm's profit definitely. Understand of the cost structure of performing supply chain activity and the value this activity brings to the supply chain. A strategy may support efficiency in supply chain by lowering the supply chain cost, defend the market share, or steal market share. So when a company suddenly decreases the prices, so they're trying to steal market share from other competitors. This is called stealing market share. Okay, so that's one benefit. And differential pricing or menu pricing, okay? So differential pricing or menu pricing may be used to attract customers with varying needs, okay? So that's a kind of being responsive. You're giving different options to your customer and they will select based on what they like. They don't have to just go with one option. The strategy should help either increase revenue, okay, so you will have more sales, or shrink cost, or preferably both, okay? So it really depends how you implement. Okay, so that's all for now. That's the sixth driver. Any questions from pricing? Okay. The last slide is talking about obstacles or hurdles or problems or challenges to achieve strategic fit. Okay. Why it is here? Because we need some knowledge of this chapter, but otherwise this is related to the previous chapter. So what are the challenges to achieve a strategic fit? Increasing variety of products. When you have multiple type of products, okay, so it increases implied uncertainty. So when it increases implied uncertainty, this is a challenge. Decrease product life cycle. Yeah. So what is the how does it impact? Any idea?
Yeah, I mean, if we decrease the product's life cycle, definitely there will be a demand in market, and it will help to increase the sales. So definitely it is profitable to the manufacturer.
Yes, it is. But how it impacts? You know, when the product life cycle is shorter.
Uh, yes, sir. When the product life cycle is shorter, maybe uh, the it may not get enough sales, and maybe the product can be like it can go out for sale and all.
Yeah, so it means that every some years, maybe every year or every 2 years, you have to totally design a new product. Okay, when you totally design a new product, it needs lots of preparation. Okay, you need to make your supply chain totally changed for new products. Okay, new contracts with suppliers, new design, new engineering, new manufacturing, new distribution. So it adds a lot of challenges for manufacturing. That's why when the product life cycle decreases, it would be a kind of obstacle or challenge for achieving strategic profit. Increasing demanding customers. Demanding customers are those customers that needs new features in product. Okay, so when you have some challenging customers, definitely it will make you brings you some challenges. Fragmentation of supply chain ownership. Traditionally, it used to be only one company owning suppliers, manufacturers, distributions, and delivery. So if you go to a farm, what do you see there? They have their own, animals. They make some milk. They may process it. They may prepare some products, and then they sell it. So all the steps of a supply chain is happening by one owner. But please make sure you're muted. Please make sure you're muted when you're not talking. Okay, so that was the traditional one. But nowadays, for each stage of a supply chain, we have a different owner. Okay, so that makes it very difficult to arrange or to coordinate with all of the stages. So that's another challenge, fragmentation, which means, having multiple owners in a supply chain. And finally, globalization. Definitely, globalization is something positive. However, there are some risks with globalization. What are those risks? For example, COVID is one of them. So when COVID impacts, okay, you have no access to those suppliers in Asia, in the East Europe, in Africa, in Australia. So you don't have access to them. So when you don't have access to them, you cannot meet your promises. Customers are waiting. So that's exactly what's happening in North America, especially in Canada. We are much behind our promises to our customers, and we have a kind of shortage of material. That's the challenge of globalization, although it is positive, but also has its own challenges. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So that's the end of
Yes, sir.
what we need to do last session. So let me stop this presentation, and then I'm going to share a very short presentation related to what we have to start today. Okay, it's not very large, but this is related to today's discussion, and exactly is after the drivers and um, metrics of supply chain. So can you see this slide?
Yes, Professor. Yes.
Yes, Professor.
Excellent. So this is called a SCOR model. Okay, so if you are in supply chain, you know that the SCOR model is a very important keyword. You will see many places. So a SCOR model and balanced scorecard. Okay, so these are two different methods that you can evaluate your supply chain performance. Okay, you can track it, you can monitor it. So that's exactly after we talk about drivers and metrics, because we already have some metrics, but how should we use it? That's the goal of this short chapter that tells you there are two models that you can use, SCOR model and balanced scorecard, so that you can design a system to evaluate your metrics and the performance of your system. Okay, learning objectives: identify SCOR model and its application to supply chain, and also discuss the application of balanced scorecards or BSC. This is a keyword. Maybe you can add it to your resume in future that you know about that. Okay, both of them. So that's the value of taking this course. You will learn a lot about some important thing that matters to industries. Okay, I always tell it to my student, but they normally forgot that. Because you know about that, why you shouldn't add it to your resume. So discuss the application of balanced scorecard in supply chain and how they can help to measure or improve supply chains. Okay, let's start with the SCORE model. It's the abbreviation of Supply Chain Operations Reference. Supply Chain Operations Reference model. It is a supply chain diagnostic tool. Okay, why I have highlighted? This is a diagnostic tool. So what happens when you go to doctor? They will write you some lab tests. Okay, after checking those lab tests, they will see how your body is reacting. Okay, how your body is working. So that's the kind of diagnostic tool. It will tell you how your supply chain is working. So that's a pretty approved model in different industries. And that's why many companies are adopting that. What is the purpose of a SCORE model? It's going to define a company's current supply chain processes. Okay. It means that it's going to let you know that what are the main processes that you have in your supply chain. And after you defined it, then you are able to quantify the performance of similar companies to establish target to achieve best-in-class performance. Okay, it's a little bit long sentence. Let me explain it and make it simple. Okay, one of the processes that you may have in your supply chain is the procurement, for example, or sales, or marketing, or manufacturing. These are different processes that you may have. Let's say manufacturing or procurement, whatever. After you identify how is your performance in manufacturing, you are able to search in the market, search in the competitors market to see who is the best in manufacturing. Okay. Then based on searching and finding who is the best manufacturing, then you can establish that best manufacturing as the best in class. For example, they are using new technologies, or their technology is the same as you, but they are using expert or skilled uh, people in their system. Or maybe they have pretty strong suppliers, or maybe any other reason. Okay, so you are able to identify who is the best in this particular process, let's say in manufacturing or procurement, and search how why they are the best, why their performance is the best. And after you did it in second step, you can go to the third step. Identify the practices and software solutions that will yield best in class performance. Okay, this is you. This is the best in class. There is a gap between you. Okay. After you study that why these are the best, you will be able to find the solution to fill out this gap. Okay, that's the idea here. That's what a SCORE model does. Okay, so first of all, you should see where you are. Second step, who is the best in this particular process? Number three, how can you achieve it? Okay, so three easy steps to help you to improve your performance. Okay, a primary feature of a SCORE model is the use of performance and indicators or metrics. This is exactly what we learned in previous chapter, yeah? Performance indicators or metrics. So why we use them? To measure supply chain performance. Yes, we already know that. That's the purpose of metrics. These metrics are categorized in a SCORE model in two main categories. Number one, customer facing processes or the metrics that measure customer facing processes, and internal facing processes. So the metrics or the performance indicators related to internal facing. So is it clear? We have two main categories of metrics. For example, what do you see in this figure? You see the metrics related to customer facing processes. So what are some of those processes? Supply chain delivery reliability. So this metrics is used, okay? This category of metrics is used in order to measure supply chain delivery reliability. So this is something that customer is waiting for that. For example, the customer is at his or her home waiting to receive a product, or they go to your store, they are waiting to receive the products. They go to purchase some products. So some metrics such as delivery performance, fill rate, and perfect order fulfillment. These metrics could be used in order to measure supply chain delivery reliability. What is the another attribute? Supply chain responsiveness. How can you measure it? Order fulfillment lead time. So how fast a customer can receive the ordered products. Okay, so that's a measure of responsiveness. Okay, another measure, supply chain flexibility. So how flexible is a supply chain? Like what? How can we measure it? Supply chain response time. Okay, so the number of days for the supply chain to respond to an unplanned significant change in demand without a cost penalty. Okay, how long does it take if your customers suddenly increase their demand? Does it take you pretty fast, or you may find it very difficult to meet the changes in customer and you just ignore those demand? Then they will be lost sales. Okay, so how flexible you are in meeting those changes? Or the last one, product flexibility. Anyway, we are not going to discuss individual metrics. Each company may have different metrics or different attributes. This is just one example that how we measure the performance in customer facing processes. And at the same time, we have internal facing processes. Here we have other factors. So this is something that is behind the scene. This is something that customer doesn't see that, but that's important for the performance of a supply chain. Like what? Like supply chain management cost. So what is the cost of your operation? What is the cost of goods sold? What is your productivity level? How much is the warranty or return processing cost? Okay, and so many other things. So you see that there are some ways that supply chain manager can evaluate his or her performance. Okay, so this is called a SCOR model. And again, we can talk hours on hours about the SCOR models, but this is just enough for us to know. The rest of it is just details, okay? So depending on the company, depending on the industry that you are, you may have different measures, and that's something for you to discover in future when you want to apply it for a certain company. Okay, any questions from a SCOR model? No question? Okay, the last topic is balanced scorecard. Okay, so the balanced scorecard examines the firm's performance in 4 critical areas. So if you remember here, we had 2 main categories, customer facing and internal facing. In balanced scorecard, we have 4 main critical areas. Number 1 is finance. So the goal is to define how should we look to our shareholders. Those who spend in our company are shareholders. The second one is customers. How should we look to our customers? Okay. Processes. At which business processes must we excel? Should we be excellent in delivery? Should we be excellent in manufacturing? Should we be excellent in transportation? So that's the thing that we should decide here. And finally, learning and growing. How will we sustain our ability to change and improve? Okay. How can we show that we are growing? How can we show that we are not staying at the same level for many years? Okay, so depending on each area, we have a set of metrics to evaluate the performance of our company. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Why we call it a balanced scorecard? Because it's more than financial measures. Okay, to use to assess the performance. Operational excellence is important. So operational excellence means how well we are managing our processes. Okay, so if we can manage our processes very efficient, we have a high operational excellence. So operational excellence is important in all four areas. How efficient the firm assets are managed. This is one example. How efficient products are produced and services are delivered. And identifying and understanding target customer helps determine the processes and capability of organizations. So if you know your customers very well, if you know what are their needs, then you can plan your company, you can plan your supply chain and take appropriate supply chain strategy. Firms' ability to improve the processes and develop competencies in new areas is critical to sustaining competitive advantage. If Samsung or Apple do not look for new technologies, new innovations, they will be behind each other. Okay, let's have a look at a sample balance scorecard. So this is a sample one. Definitely, it's not something that is applicable to all industries, but let's see what we should expect from a sample balance scorecard. First of all, you see that there are four areas: finance, customers, processes, and learning and growing. For each of them, there are a set of objectives. For example, for finance, they want to become industry cost leader. So in other words, they want to have the cheapest possible process. So how can they achieve it? They want to measure such achievement. They want to measure this objective by reduction or percentage of cost reduction per unit. Okay. What is their goal, for example, in 2011 that they started this work? They was thinking of 20% reduction for this year. Let's say we are in fall, so half a year is gone. We want to measure how much we have achieved to that. So right now we have reduced our cost 10%. What was the goal? 20%. So in the middle of way, yeah. So how much we have achieved our goal? 50%. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
So the goal was 20%. We have achieved 10%. So half of the way is gone. So the score is 50%. This way, I am able to evaluate how much is the mean performance, okay? Based on each indicator, based on each KPI, based on each objective. Then I can report my managers that this is the average score that I have achieved so far in this year. Okay, this helped me to give a nice report to my manager. So which area is my best performance in this balanced scorecard?
Processes, service.
Exactly. So I have to look at this column. If I want to see individual performance, then I will see that 95% is the best. So On-time delivery, I have achieved it very good, 95%. Then if I want to look at the individual items such as finance, customer processes, and learning, which one has the highest one?
Quality.
Quality
Customers.
customers. So it looks that I have achieved the goal for customers more than other areas. Okay, so simply it gives managers a very nice understanding of how much they could achieve their planned objectives. This is called balanced scorecard. You can measure it every month, you can measure it every week. Okay, so depending on your period of measurement, you can give a good sense that how much you can achieve to your goals. So do you see this is a kind of diagnosis tool? So which processes you are the weakest?
The
Learning
human
and growing.
capital.
Human
Human capital.
capital, yeah, human capital in general. And it looks that in learning and growing, they are not as strong as other measures. Okay, thank you everyone. That's the goal of balanced scorecards and score model. They're going to show you how you can achieve to your goals at any time. So I'm going to stop recording for now.